What's going on, pursuers? Welcome to this episode of the Pursuit of Calling podcast with me, your host, Thomas Carney. So in this episode, I'm talking all about mentorship. We're having a great conversation just between you and me today about why it's important to have mentors in your life. But before you get into the episode, go ahead and make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast, and make sure notifications are on so you do not miss an episode of this podcast, guys. Also, if you want to go to the pursuit.of.calling.com, go to the website, let me know what you think of the website, and go ahead and sign up for email alerts, and I'm going to give you a free gift for that as well. All right, guys, see you in there. All right, pursuers, let's dive right in. So, you can't pursue your calling on your own, right? You're going to need people by your side pushing you to be more than you know that you can be. These people know more than you, right? So in this episode, we're going to talk about why it's important to have mentors in your life. We're also going to talk about what a mentor is and why you should have multiple mentors in your life for the multiple areas of your life. You shouldn't just have one that tries to encapsulate all that you try to use to encapsulate all of those areas. So let's start with why it's important to have mentors in your life. Why is it important to seek them out, right? Because a lot of the time they don't find you, you find them. So, 2 episodes ago, I talked about the time I almost lost $4,000. That was honestly one of the scariest times of my life. And it sounds bizarre because there might be another scarier time coming along, but that was a hard time in my life. And the two men that walked me through that, the two mentors that walked me through that, I mentioned in that episode, were Ed Newell and Patrick Williams. They both knew more than I did in that situation, and they knew those things before I did. That's one great thing that makes a mentor. And these people, I sought them out beforehand, before this situation even happened. It was like they're already established as mentors in my life. So let me actually touch on that a little bit deeper. You don't want to wait to have a mentor in your life up until some bad situation comes along. These mentors aren't just for bad situations. They're also to propel you forward in situations. So mentors, they walk down the mountain. They don't stay at the top. That's the thing I learned from John Maxwell, right? Where mentors or leaders, people who say it's lonely at the top, John said those aren't actually leaders, because if they're at the top by themselves, they're not leading anybody. They're at the top yelling down from the top of the mountain, being like, look at what I did. That means you can do it too, bud. Come on up. But a mentor or a true leader walks down the mountain and walks with you back up and points out where the pitfalls are, points out the cliffs and the wrong turns that might take you right back down the mountain. That's what Pat kind of did for me. Even though I was already in this bad situation, Pat actually helped me realize that the situation wasn't really that bad. He helped me realize that this situation that I was in, he was like, Thomas, I've been through this before. He's like, I've been through worse than this before, if I remember correctly. And he was like, you're fine. He helped me realize I didn't sign anything. So they had no legal reason to hold my money. And him being an established business owner of multiple different businesses was able to help me figure out who they really were. And he knew all of those things I didn't know. And now I have more of an idea of what to look out for. And that whenever I'm signing people into a business or signing up for people for my coaching in the future, to have them sign a contract, because for my coaching, I'll be a little bit nicer, but there's, that was a little off topic, but I don't know if you realize, I really like John Maxwell. So in preparation for this episode, I watched from an episode from the Maxwell Leadership Podcast called "What It Really Means to Be a Mentor." And this was in about an hour, like I think it was like an hour and 11-minute video about having cuts for different episodes of the podcast, different talks that John or some of his other people did about mentorship. And like I took a ton of notes. I don't have time to go through completely with you today, but like I'm going to give you like the what I'm talking about today, all the way, or like the things I talked about already are those main takeaways that I've derived from these notes. I'm going to link to that episode though in the show notes because I want to share it with you because I want you to grow. I want you to see and watch this video, put on like, I don't know, 1.5, 1.7 speed on YouTube because John, at least John can talk a little slow and not like he just talks slower. And I like, if I can bump it up to 1.7, then it makes the video go a little bit faster. Makes it like 30 minutes. That's not a knock on John Maxwell at all. Just take some breaks between breaths. So what is a mentor? We covered what a mentor is, or like we covered why it is important to have mentors in your life because they're not just they're not just part of the bad times. Even though I just talked about a bad time in my life when it was great to have a mentor, and I also talked about how they're there to propel you forward. And I think I'll have it later in my notes, but I'm going to mention it now. I was listening to another podcast today about mentorship by, actually it was by the podcast of the guest from the last episode, John Stonke. And in this episode, he was talking about mentorship and saying like having a mentor is almost like having almost like getting a shortcut, having a shortcut. Even though there's no true shortcuts in life, having a mentor, like I said, they help you see the pitfalls and the things that you weren't aware of that could hang you up. And they save you a lot of time and potentially, in my case, a lot of money. So it's something to think about whenever you're seeking your mentors out. So what is a mentor? They're someone who gives people perspective. They're also, they help us see the whole picture. That was what Pat did for me. He helped me see the whole picture of that. I didn't lose my money. I was in a better situation than I thought it was. I was only seeing the picture that was in my own head. I was internally seeing the picture. I was internally only seeing the picture that I was creating myself. And he helped me see the whole picture that was external to me. He was helping me connect pieces that I didn't have, that I wasn't aware of, and created a bigger picture. It's like I only had my own piece of the puzzle and he supplied the rest. So you want to go like the mentors also see more. I guess they already said this multiple times. They see more before the others that are in their area of mentorship. And when I see the area of mentorship, we're going to cover later, but like why it's important to have multiple mentors. But I'm going to get into more of that in a second. But they also share about their personal life. And this is important. A true mentor, is going to share about their personal life, their personal experiences, and how they felt throughout those situations, the things that they learned in those situations. Because that's what Pat did for me. He shared his personal experience with me, and he told me how stressed out he was. And that he said, Thomas, everything you're saying, I remember having those same thoughts. But I got to the other side and realized it wasn't that bad. So I'm telling you now that it's not that bad. So he told me his past experiences, and he was able to walk me through it. That's what a true mentor does. I like the saying that John said. I wrote down this little excerpt from my notes. That you're going to you want to ask your mentors about their failures to learn more from them, because if you want to impress people, you share your success. But if you want to impact people, you share your failures. So what does that mean? Well, whenever you want to if you want to impress people, you share your success. If you're just saying, look at all these things I do, it makes people feel like they look at you and you're like, wow, I'm really impressed by all the things that you accomplished. But then they don't feel like they can do it themselves. They just think it's really cool that you did it. But if you share about their failures and you mix those things in with each other, you share your failures while you're talking about even whenever you're succeeding, you're like, wow, look at all those things he accomplished in spite of the failures he went through. This is what makes a mentor, guys. Now, maybe you already have a mentor, and now it's time for you to go mentor somebody else. That was the original idea for this podcast, actually, for this episode, was to talk about 3 levels of leadership when it pertains to you. Like you have the people above you and people below you in the site of mentorship. But I really wanted to talk about why it's important to have a mentor, right? I wanted to talk about why it's important, what they are, and so I can really push you to seek mentors out in your life. If you do not have any, this is the point of this episode. The point of this episode is to help you out. So, and again, if you already have a mentor in your life, maybe it's your turn. Maybe it's your turn to go and seek somebody out to mentor. You know, before I did say that mentors don't find you, but I shouldn't. That's the case most of the time. But then there is also the cases of the real awesome mentors that seek people out and where they see something, maybe they see something in you. Maybe you have somebody that saw something in you, spoke into that, and they said, that is something I'm impressed with. That is something I know can grow in you. That is somebody I know is somebody that if I mentor them, they're going to shoot to the moon. Like a mentor or a leader's goal shouldn't be to get them even to their level. It should to get the people that they're mentoring past them and to surpass them. It's like whenever I hear my parents talking about like a parent saying that let me get this thought together. When parents say that they want their children to be better than them, like not even saying that they want them to be raised better than they were raised, or want them to live a life that was better than theirs, like want them to succeed in areas that they didn't succeed. Like it's the same idea. Parents are mentors and leaders to their children, and just like you could be a mentor to a friend or a student, if you're a teacher, or to a colleague at work, or to the people that are below people that are below you. I'm putting quotes around that for the audio listeners. To the below you in your positional role at your job. Maybe you're a manager or a supervisor. You can be that mentor and true leader, not just by positional, to those people below you. So if you want to impress, share your success. If you want to impact people, share your failures. Now, I like this one thing also that John Maxwell said as well. He said, I said already, if you're succeeding, you want to make sure you share your failures, but also when you're failing, you want to make sure you remember and share your successes. And so you keep that positive outlook on life, and people would be like, wow, even though he's in a rut, even though she is in a rut, they still remember the things that they've already accomplished, and that means that they can do it again. And that's also in you, like just because you're in, maybe just because you might be in a rut, if you can look back on your past successes and realize, yeah, I can do that again. I can do more than that again. Let me learn from this failure and then surpass where I was before. So now let's talk about the next thing. Let's talk about why you should have multiple mentors for different areas of life. Now, these different areas of life could include your financial, business, career, or your calling, per se. Hint, hint. Maybe your leadership, your health, maybe even your relationships. I think all of those areas are great areas to have mentorships. Now, it could be intersection points. Maybe you have a mentor that is good in multiple areas, but I don't think one mentor is going to be good at mentoring you in every single one of those areas. That's why it's important to seek out multiple mentors. If you don't have a mentor or can't find a mentor in a particular area, a great place to start is by, seeking out books written by authors, by great men and women. Let them be your mentors. I have a book up on my bookshelf. You can't actually see it, but it's, it's this one up there. I'm going to, I will, I'm going to, this is a side note. I'm going to post this video. I haven't been posting them. I'm going to post this one. I'm holding myself to that. I'm going to write that down in my notes. So you can watch this on YouTube, but there's, I've already talked about in previous episodes why it's important to read books. If you want to grow, if you want to grow, you read books. If you're not growing, you're dying. So yeah, if you don't I'm going to explain why it's important in this area, in this context. I have a book up. I said I already have a book up there. I got sidetracked. I apologize. It's up there. It's called Attached. It's about attachment styles when it comes to relationships. Now, I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but I wanted to reference it because there's areas I want to personally understand about relationships, being a single guy. But I also have friends in my life. My best friend, Andrew, who just got married. He's a great mentor when it comes to relationships. But then I can also go to books. You can have more than one mentor in an area as well. You don't have to have one. It can be a book and it can be other people. But there's, though I also love reading, John Maxwell, for topics when it comes to leadership. I have great leaders in my life, but then I also go to John Maxwell because I know he has tried and true leadership principles that I plan and do implement. So people who read are people who succeed. That in itself is all you need to know why you should be reading. People who read are people who succeed. Now, to kind of close this off, I just want to talk about one thing that John talked about during this episode, during that one YouTube video that I really, really, really think you should listen to. He said he does something called learning lunches. It's a great practice John talks about, and to these lunches, he says sometimes he doesn't even eat anything at these lunches. He just pays for the lunch of for the person he invites. It's just a one-on-one lunch. And he brings a notebook and a list of questions, which I think is amazing. And some of the questions that he asks are, tell me about your failures, like we talked about before. And this last question is fantastic. And it might start asking it to guests, on the episodes, but who do you know that I should know? This is a great question. Who do you know that I should know? And that's a great way to increase your network. And it's a way to even for me, it's a way to get more people on the podcast. Cause I talked to John Stange. I talked with, Jeff Dorina, who you're going to hear from pretty soon, next month, I believe. And these people I would not have met otherwise, but John Stange was through mutual friends. Jeff Dorina, I sought him out on my own as a mentor in the coaching space, but there's so much value in mentorship and so much value in growing your network by asking that question, who do you know that I should know? So guys, I hope you enjoyed this whole episode on mentorship. I actually really enjoyed talking about this topic. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments on Spotify and YouTube or wherever you can leave a comment. Let me know if you liked this episode. I'd really appreciate it. And guys, thank you again for listening to this episode. If you liked it, please give this podcast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you can rate podcasts. And again, leave a like, subscribe. I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast. If you're not subscribed already, that would be a great free way to support the podcast. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.